All right. So, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be able to talk about something that I think is super important, especially in today's market, and that is interviewing. Okay. So, for today's session, we're going to be talking about how to get through the interview process, how to be more confident, and how to just really break it down and how to think about it. But before we get into that good stuff and we really kick off today's webinar, our workshop, I want to take a moment and introduce you all to the community and the space that you're hanging out in. I know I see some names that I haven't seen before, so just want to make sure people know what's going on and who Tech by Choice is. Like I was saying earlier, before we officially started, that Tech by Choice is a community. We're a nonprofit. We've been going for the last 5 years. And before the pandemic, we were outside. We were doing things in real life. And like I said, we found different community centers to really just sit at a table and figure out these solutions to tech and make sure that we feel connected together. And so you could see from this image here some of the things that we were doing. And the reason why we come together and we do this work is because we truly believe that we can, with the right resources, the right support, that underestimated groups can know that they have the space to enter and stay and thrive in tech. And we do this for a couple different ways. We focus on career opportunities, workshops like we're doing today, but we also do these community-driven content, such as putting together resources and workshops to help people with what they're looking for, as well as provide mentorship and guidance and just different ways to navigate the tech industry together. And that is because we want to see the world get to a space where our vision is the default. We understand that companies know how to have diverse user bases, but we want to get them to a space where the companies, the people who are building and running the companies are just as diverse as their user groups because they can market to us. Why not hire us? And so if this sounds exciting to you, if you are looking to be a part of a welcoming community like Tech by Choice, I definitely encourage you all to, you can see them in LinkedIn. Okay, that's so odd. I encourage you all to join the Tech by Choice community. And you could do that by going over to www.beta.techbychoice.org and you can sign up. Also, I am going to share the link to the slides right now for everyone. Didn't realize that didn't go out. Sorry about that. So those things are in the chat, so that's cool. All right, yeah. So if you want to join the Tech by Choice community and get access to more resources like this, definitely do that. You'll get access to our Slack community, have access to us 24/7, our mentorship platform, our job board, we're in the process of releasing a brand new platform called Open Doors, which is a really cool review and company feedback tool. So there is a lot that we have that we're building for the community, and I would love for you to be a part of that. But let's talk about why we decided to do a interview prep workshop and why for the last couple of months we have been focusing on the job hunt part of your tech journey versus anything else. And we just have to start by stating the obvious that this job market has been pretty difficult. Companies definitely have the upper hand in this market, so it's pushing us to be on our P's and Q's, making sure that we are always in a position where we're staying ready so we don't have to get ready to get to that next job offer. So that's why we put together this workshop. We want to make sure that we put in real time to make sure our community feels supported to not only land new jobs, but to feel confident in doing it. And so I'm really excited because this workshop was put together by people who are either broken to tech by not having like the traditional path, or they have recently landed a new job title in tech that they didn't have before. So these are all tactics that hiring managers, people who have done this, and recruiters have helped us create and put together. And so the way that we want to tackle today and the things that we're going to be focused on learning is we're going to be building a foundational understanding of what is happening in these interview processes and how can you take the core theory that we'll cover today and apply it to a lot of different situations. And that takes us to our next slide, which is about um, what we're going to cover today. So, we're going to talk about how to read a job description, researching the company, interview formats, building your pitch, discussing your projects, and how to be a team player, and how all of these things show up when it gets to the interview process. So before we get started, I want to take some time to do some introductions. So for me, my name is Valerie Phoenix. I am the founder of Tech by Choice, and I am also a senior engineering manager. So I hire people as part of my 9 to 5 job on top of the community work that I do. Some fun facts about me is I don't like long walks on the beach. If I go to the beach, I like to sit there and take a nap or read a book. I have a weird looking dog, which will probably like pop up at some point. And I've been in tech for 10 years now. I started off doing UX and moved into front end development, picked up back end, and then recently moved into management. And I started off completely self taught, didn't go to school for this, didn't go to a boot camp, and I'm still here. And I really do love helping people make money and learning new things. And it's a big reason why I started Tech by Choice. Um, cool. So, like I said, I want this to be a community event. I want you to feel like this is something you can truly engage with. So, I dropped some details into the chat, but I want folks to go through and respond to this. Drop your name and your pronouns if you would like to share. We already talked about where you're located, but let's talk about the role that you're looking for and how long you've been on your tech journey. So go ahead and add that into the chat, and we'll start to get started. Happy Webhook Wednesday! Oh my God, that is like the best thing I've ever heard. That you should really get behind that and start branding that, make content about that, make a webhook about that. I love that. But yeah, feel free to drop your intros in the chat and we will go ahead and get started. All right. So, we want to talk about job requirements and reading job descriptions because the first step in getting that next job offer is to make sure you know what you're going for and what's happening, right? So let's talk about it. When we look at a job description, people may think like, oh, this is just something that you need to get through and just apply, apply, apply. And sometimes we don't take the time to really read what's going on. And so I have a couple of things about how I think you should think about job descriptions. The first thing is that you want to make sure that you understand that the job description is going to tell you what is required of the role, the expectations, and it's a very high level overview of what to expect. And so you can use the job description as a way to understand what do you need to put in your resume so that you can get through the screening. But it also gives you a really good insight on what do you need to study and how can you practice for that interview process. So those are all the things that you can think about and how you can start to use these job descriptions as something that is a study guide, a thing to keep you going forward and not moving backwards. And let's see, is there anything else? Oh, you know what? I think what a lot of people tend to overlook is that job descriptions also can tell you about the green and red flags. I know this may seem like a hot take, that a lot of people may think that, oh, just from a job description, you can't tell if this is going to be a good job for you or a bad job for you. But I think there is. So when I look at jobs and I see certain things on the job description, I instantly know like this is not for me. This is not something I'm going to be happy with. Some of the things that stand out to me is if the job description is vague, they don't really tell you what the responsibilities are. If it's unrealistic, they have like a long list of things that you need to do. There's not a lot of company information. Now, there are startups that are stealth startups that will not give you all the information about them because they haven't fully launched. But what I've noticed is that with a lot of these scams that are out there, they don't have a lot of information about the job. So you always want to be careful. It's hard enough to go through um, the job hunt. You don't want to have to deal with scammers and things like that. And if they're focusing on just the perks, you know that this is not going to be good for you because what else is going on at the job. If you see something that is just talking about perks, you can think of this as like, hey, this is the job that is always pushing that they have ping pong table, but they don't have good work-life balance. They don't pay you well, and it's probably not the best environment to be there. Now, everyone has their own decisions, and you may have to take a job that may not be the best, but I want you to really understand what these red flags could look like so that you know a little bit more about what you're getting into, and you can have a really good exit plan if you go for a job that is not the best, but it is good for experience. Okay. So, now that we understand what is going on with a job descriptions, we want to take some time to talk about how do you know if you're ready for your role. Now, this is a question that I get asked often from people, and there's a lot of people who are just like, hey, I don't know if I'm ready for my first dev role. I don't know if I'm ready to move into management or get this senior title, or it could be a number of different things that make you question if you're ready. So I come up with a couple of things that you can do to help you understand if you're ready for that job based off of the job description and just how well you know yourself. I do have to say you can look at these different things and think about it, but it might be helpful if you can go to an ex coworker or someone who knows you and ask them if how well do they think you compare to the role? Because sometimes I've noticed, especially from people in our community, you may struggle with understanding if you have enough skills. 9 times out of 10, if I am talking to someone from a marginalized background, either they're my direct report, I worked with them in the past, or I've interviewed them, they typically see themselves as less senior than they really are or less skilled. So I want you to really lean in on your community. Look at the amazing people that we have in the chat. People are dropping their LinkedIn profiles. You can connect with them. You can set up time with them. You can join the Tech by Choice community and sync with people in our Slack to start talking about your skill set, and we can help you really understand if you're ready for that. Okay. Also, shout out to everyone in the chat, in the Slack, in the chat right now who are still doing introductions. Again, we have people from all over, from Lagos to Nigeria to New York. We have a couple. Oh, we have someone else from LA. So again, Kendrick fans are here. Sorry again for the people in Toronto. We love you. It's just that -1 individual that we're not paying attention to. We also have some people in the chat from our live stream, which we think is really cool. Hey, Andre, thank you for hanging out with us. Love to see you here. Okay, so I've been talking a lot, and I want to know if folks are ready to engage because I could yap for a long time, but but I want to know some things from you. So I'm going to launch a poll. I want you to take some time and answer this one question. What's a challenging interview question that you have had when you've interviewed? I'm going to think about this. I came up with this question, but I don't even have an answer for this one. Oh, wait, no. This is not the right question. The question I'm supposed to be asking the chat is actually, what are other ways you know that you're ready for the job? So in our last slide, we said that, hey, these are the couple of things that you could do. Make sure you have the minimum years of experience. Your core skills overlap with the core skills in a job description. And you see the few other things. But for those of you, especially those of us who have experience, how did you know you were ready? What were some of the things that you were able to, ways that you were able to know that you fit the requirements for that job application you saw? You can't see the slides. Oh, let me. Can you see the slides now? Okay, so the slide should be. You see a portion of them. Do you see more of them now? Okay, that's super weird. Sorry about that, everyone. I had beautiful slides going and no one saw them. I am so glad that I sent the link so that everyone has access to the slides. And you can see them on LinkedIn. Okay, that is strange. You know, I was gonna say this is the smoothest event that I've ever put together, but I see that there has been issues. Can you resend the link? Yes, I can resend the link for the slides. Give me just 1 second. And here you go. All right, so there's the link for the slides. Okay, cool. Got it. So now we're all on the same page. Everything is going good. And again, this is recorded and it'll be on our YouTube. It's on LinkedIn, as some folks have already seen. So if you want to see the slides in action, you can definitely play that back. But let's talk about this one question. What are some other ways that you know that you're ready to apply for a job? What are some ways that you've been able to do a gut check to know that you're ready? Definitely let me know in the chat. If anyone, let me know in the chat if anyone would like to come off mute. You can do that as well, because I know it takes some time to type stuff up. But we'd love to know. And again, thank you, everyone. If anything else goes haywire within the live stream, let me know so I can make sure I get that fixed as quickly as possible. All right. Cool. Oh, Andre dropped a really good question that he got in the chat. He said, list the time your career you failed, and what did you do to overcome it? I think this is a really great question that sometimes interviewers will ask you, and this is something that we will actually talk about how to address and handle. So I think this is a really cool question. So I think that's a good one. We got another one from the chat. If we can answer the leak code or hacker rank question in under 30 minutes. For those of you who may not be developers have to go through coding challenges, and they are given like a different level of coding questions that they have to code out in front of people. And hacker rank and leak code questions are not like anything you've ever seen before. If you have a dev job, it's not even going to be something close to what you've done in the past or what you do in your day to day. It's a completely different skill set. So, those are one of the harder um, questions. And if you can answer those, you know you're ready to go for that job interview and you can get through it. So that's a good one. We also got, what projects have you done using the skills in the job descriptions? Yes. That's a good way to figure out if you are ready for that job. The more you're able to connect the dots from that job description to your actual resume and projects that you can talk about, is the better, because you're just connecting the dots for people and showing them, hey, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've done it before and I could do it at this company. Another comment from the chat: a good sign that I'm ready is if I see things in the job description I have done before, or I get ideas or can picture myself doing the same things. But in general, I don't like being too. I don't like to be the one to reject myself, so I put myself out there regardless and take feedback from the process. That is the best mindset to have when it comes to some of these job descriptions, because if I'm being honest with you, sometimes they're really good. Some companies are really great at putting together these job descriptions, but sometimes they're a little off. They are not that like one to one. And some of the things that we think as like, oh, I don't have that one skill, it may not even be that serious. So that's a really good way to gauge if you're ready. Let the other person reject you, don't reject yourself. We're learning some really good lessons here. I hope y'all are picking up on that. So I'm going to go ahead, and you all can keep dropping those bits of feedbacks in the chat. Feel free to respond to each other. When you are using the Zoom chat, you want to make sure that the to section is set to everyone, so that everyone can interact with you and get those good pieces of feedback. All right. So we talked about how do you go through the job description and what is your next steps after that. And it's going to be researching the company. So when we think about it, when, say you got past the interview, the very first process, they select your resume out of the stack of resumes and they want to talk to you. So you're going to start doing a little bit of research. Now, before this market got this bad, I would typically say, like, for me personally, as a hiring manager, I do not care if you have researched anything about the company. I understand that you're interviewing with multiple companies. It's hard to keep that stuff straight. And I will not hold that against you in the interview process. And that's the future that I really want to see for tech. But I understand that the reality is that this is still part of the system that we're working in. So if you want to stand out in the interview process, I encourage people to do some research about the company. I think some basic things that you should know about the company is the mission and the value. If they've come up recently in the news, you kind of want to know why, to make sure, one, they have funding, two, they didn't come up in the news for being a completely toxic company or something really bad, and three, you want to research, and I think this is the most important part about doing the research, you want to cater your research to the role that you're going for. So, for example, if you're going for a technical writer role, look at their technical documentation or their blogs or anything that they post about it. If you're doing a tech sales role, the best way you can understand what is the selling point of a product is look up what customers are saying. Search Facebook groups, search Twitter, search Reddit. Do you know how many people talk about products on Reddit? Like, it's a gold mine, especially if you're in an interview process for a tech sales role or something like that. And if you're a designer or you're working in product or anything like that, you want to use different You want to look up if they've done a design refresh, if they talk about the logos, fonts, anything like that. That's going to really help you get to that next level. Okay. Oh, we got a really good question here from Doug. Researching the people you're interviewing with, the company within the company is important, but what you want to understand is their core business and be able to ask good questions. I think that's a really great thing. And Doug also said that using websites like Levels FYI or Glassdoor are a great way to do this. So we're getting these tips and tricks from everyone, and this is why I said you want to learn in community and you want to hang out with people who want to see you win. So love this. So we know we need to research and we understand how this is important, and we even know how we can do a deep dive based on our role, but how do we find the tea? How do we find out what is really going on with these companies and if this is something that you want to take on, or if it's going to be a challenge, how can you find out the best way to navigate that? Right? So if you want to get the tea on a company, there are a couple of platforms. Doug already said one, Glassdoor. There was a company called Fishbowl, and when I was putting together these slides, I realized that Fishbowl, I think, got bought by Glassdoor, which is weird, but whatever. And then there's companies like Blind, which they talk about more of the FANG companies. But also want to throw it out there that Tech by Choice does have our brand new company review platform called Open Doors, which will share some of the same information, but do it in a way that keeps your information completely anonymous and completely safe. And I think this is really important. You want to do this research here because sometimes you'll even get insights on what the interview process is like. You could check out if there's been any weird stuff going on with the company, again, positive or negative, and you can understand how to better navigate your interview process, come up with more questions to ask them to make you feel more confident about your choice, and things like that. So, we're moving on to the next question that I have for folks, which is, what are some resources that you found helpful when trying to research your company? So have you looked at blogs? Have you looked at YouTube videos, TikTok videos, Reddit? What are some resources or some platforms that you've used in the past to do your research and find out more tea about the companies you're talking to? Go ahead and drop your answers in the chat. Would love to know. Ooh, Reddit. Reddit is the first one I'm seeing. Naomi, can you please tell me more about Reddit? Glassdoor for sure. Yeah, Glassdoor has been really helpful. It's been a great spot. Y Combinator, blogs, social media posts, if they're a smaller or newer company. Talking and networking is a good way to find out about companies. Andre says that he has used LinkedIn and YouTube, Glassdoor as well. I think this is really cool. Also, Twitter and X. I think Twitter is a really interesting place to find out information about companies because people usually go on Twitter to complain. So you get a lot of the piping hot tea on Twitter, it seems. All right. Oh, this is a good one. We have people are talking about recent podcasts that the co-founders or founders have done. Also checking out their communities on Discord or Slack. You know what? I'm not a big fan of Discord, but I love when companies have Discords, especially as like a developer. If I'm trying to figure out how to use something, way easier to go out in Discord, and it also gives me an insight on if I like that tech community anyway. So shout out to Discord for that stuff. I like to use Reddit to get an unfiltered version of people's experience working in different places, so I can get an idea of some of the things a company won't say. Yeah, yeah. As you can see, there are many different ways that you can leverage online to find the answers that you're looking for, to understand how to position yourself for a role or get ready to start working at a company. There are a lot of resources out there, and I'm glad we're sharing them here. Now, you have all those resources, but you want to really be strategic and think about how you're going to put those things together. You want to really think about how you craft your story, by connecting it to the mission and the values of the company. A lot of companies are introducing, what are they called, value interviews as more of a culture fit type thing for the interview process to make sure you'll just have a good time in the environment. You want to make sure that you have examples that live up to the company values, so that way you're not just saying like, yeah, I agree, and transparency, but you have a story that backs it, and you have examples to make it seem more realistic. And when you are in the interview process, again, like I said before, this is not something that would make it or break it for me. But if you shared, I have heard hiring managers and hiring teams get excited when they hear that a candidate is sharing what they have learned about the company in the interview process. I think this is also helpful because you're able to understand different questions that you may want to ask about the business model, about how they make money, revenue, and things like that. All right. So now that we are in a spot where we have talked about all of the different things that you can do for the interview process or how to get ready for it, we also know how to research. I want to talk about interview formats, right? So, because what I've noticed is that sometimes it gets a little tricky if you're not quite sure what a tech interview in tech looks like. Again, whether you're going in for a customer support, a developer, or a tech writer role, the way that people handle tech interviews are so much different than under other industries. I know the first time that I went through a tech interview, I think I was so nervous, I almost fainted because I didn't understand why I had to talk to all of these different people for a single job. I was very, very young and very, very unaware, is the nicest way to say that. So, just to do some grounding. So, tech interviews are known for being notoriously bad and notoriously long. So, that means you could expect to have about 7 to 8 interviews, and they can include up to like 4 people on that interview process or interview panel. And throughout those interviews, people are checking for a number of different themes, right? So they're looking for emotional intelligence, role related skills, making sure you're cultural fit, um, that you have like the behavioral skills, that you're adaptable, you can problem solve, and your overall interviewing skills. Now, I do have to say, depending on the company and the role, some of these things will be more important than others. Even if we look at it, it may be more important for some interviews than others. So, in this slide that I'm showing now, I'm covering the different types of interviews that you can experience. Now, this is a pretty detailed list. There's 11 steps. You probably won't see all of these, but I just threw out all the ones that I could think of so that way you're prepared and you kind of understand what to expect. So you can have a phone screening, phone screening, hiring manager screening. You're going to have an interview that's focused on your skills, how you work with team members, how you work with people across domains, something about checking the values. There will be a hiring manager type interview where the hiring manager is focused on assessing your skill level and having a better understanding. Um, and then at that point, if you pass that one, you typically meet the founder of the company or the director of the department, or maybe even like the C-level person. That all depends on like how big the company is. And then only then, I want to emphasize this part. Don't try to negotiate your salary until you're given an offer. So you're given an offer, and then that kicks off the negotiations. And after that, like you do a background check and you get like the official offer or whatnot. And so are you accept the offer. And so that is what the interview stages can look like. Again, intensive, it's a lot. Is this the best way to do this? No. Will you see all of these interviews just to get one job? No, but this is just the different variations that you can expect so you can be better prepared. All right. So I've been talking a lot. Oh, this is a good question. What would you say if they asked your salary expectation before the interview? Depending on how they word it and where you're located, it could be illegal, which I think it's good for us to know, but I don't know how many other people who work at companies know employment law, which is a whole different other thing. Um, the way that I handle this is this usually happens in the initial phone screening. So, like the very first interview that you have. And the way that I handle it is like, hey, I don't know what's going on right now, but what I will say is that I base what my expectation for salary is based off the company size and role expectations. And then I follow it up with like, but to find alignment, I would love to know what is the salary range for this role. And they usually are able to tell me like a budget for what that role is, and if I feel comfortable with that, like the highest and the lowest part, I would say like, okay, that's within the range of what I'm looking for. And I would tell them like, let's do a check-in towards the end of the interview process so I could have more alignment based off of the role and expectations. um, I think that that's a great example of how to handle that. I'm open to discussing compensation once I have a better understanding of the role and the overall compensation packet. That's great. I like to like push back a little bit more because I just want to know the range. So saying that and following up with, do you have the range for this role, is perfectly fine. That's a good question. Keep these questions coming in. We can figure this stuff out together. All right, it's time for a quiz. I've been talking for a long time, and I want to make sure that it's not just me talking, that we are being interactive. So I have a for real poll this time that I won't just end. And I'm sorry I did that earlier. So we talked about the different types of interviews. So I have two questions for you. Right now, you should see a poll that just went up if you're hanging out with us on Zoom. And in this poll, you're going to be asked different questions about different phases of the interview. Go ahead and take some time and answer those questions. And once we get folks in there and talking about that or answering these questions, we will review them and talk about it. Okay. All right. We have 50% of participants who have completed. If you are in Zoom, don't forget. Oh, got a question in the chat. Please advise us how to answer. Tell me about yourself. We will get to that. That is actually, I think, the very next phase of this workshop we're going to get to. And I'm really excited. I'm excited that you're excited about that and you're asking these questions. All right. So let me Okay. Job related info. Um, all right, we're at 78%. I'm gonna give folks another 30 seconds because I think we're starting to like have as many people respond as we're going to. Okay, we got another one in. 85%. We're at 85%. We're doing good. We're doing great. We just need 2 more people to submit and then we will be done. We're going to give this another 30 seconds and see if we can get it to a little bit closer to completion. But 85 is good. C's get degrees. I am not going to be upset with 85% participation because I do see people are chatting in the chat. So I am happy that we are engaging with each other. All right, we are about 5 seconds out before closing this poll, and we are done. All right, so I think if I do this, so okay, I'm sharing the results. So the first question that we got is during the phone screening, what is the interviewer looking for? We had a couple options, but the answer is to see if you're a fit for the company culture and understanding your work experience. This one was a little tricky. We did get 83% of people responded with that one, which was the winning answer. Shout out to you if you got that one correct. But this one was tricky because in-depth understanding of role related skills does sound like something that you would look for during the phone screening. But the reason why this one is wrong is because typically who's doing the phone screening is a recruiter. They may not know exactly how to tell if you're senior, mid-level, or junior, but they will be able to get a good understanding if you're a good company culture fit and you have like the baseline requirements for as far as experience. The in-depth stuff is going to happen later in the interview process. But good job, everyone. That was a really good response there. So the next question that we got is during cross team collaboration, what is the interviewer looking for? This one, everyone got right, 100% of us. We answered examples of how you communicate effectively, foster teamwork, and achieve common goals by collaboration. Thank you to everyone who did not select how to push your idea was better than your coworker from another domain. That is the absolute worst thing that you can do in an interview. And it's actually something that I see very often. Please don't do that. If you do have an example of when you were able to change or sway someone's thoughts or process, say you did it collaboratively as a team. Do not say that you just had the better answer, and so that's why you didn't let them push for something else. That may seem off or seem like a given, but it's not. Got a comment in the chat. People do that when they feel their roles are being threatened, i.e., prior to a layoff. Yes, that definitely does happen. It's unfortunate, but I do think if we're able to like catch that in the interview process, we'll have a better experience overall. All right. So we are now going to talk about building your pitch. Now, this is my favorite part because we will go ahead and jump into this one because it's really interactive. We will be able to talk about and bring together a lot of the things we've already talked about, and the work we do here is going to support some other stuff, right? So when we think about a pitch, This is how you answer the tell me about yourself. This is a question that gets asked in every stage of the interview. But I want to say that I've heard probably at this point over 1,000 people answer this. And I've only had one person answer this that just like wowed me. I've had a handful of them be really good. But when I would talk to other people, even like recruiters and other hiring managers, we kind of came up with the this overview of what should be in there, what we're looking for, and what wows us. And it's just a short introduction about your name, what you've done, your professional background, key skills and strengths, goals and motivation, and just a quick wrap up to connect why you're either talking to them today, why you're interested in the company, or things like that. Now, when you're thinking about creating your pitch and crafting that, you want to understand that when you're interviewing, things are very centered in westernized standards. So the short and brief, concise answers are always going to sound better, even if you come from a culture that likes to talk. I know I do. Storytelling. I love it. It's how I grew up. It doesn't work that well in interviews. Again, does it matter to me? No, but I am not your default. I'm helping you work within the systems that we have. So make sure your pitch is about 2 to 3 minutes long. You want to practice this. You can practice it in the mirror, to someone else, to your plants, to your pets, to the people around you, or even in the Tech by Choice Slack, hop on Zoom, do a co working session, and practice it there. And one thing that I've noticed some people will do is that you want to make your pitch relevant to who you're talking to. So whether it be the company or the stage of the interview. So if you're talking to, let's say, someone who is doing the values interview. So this could be someone who's not in your domain at all, knows nothing about your job, knows no jargon. Don't add jargon to your pitch. That's going to throw them off. They're going to be confused. And that's not a great way to start your interview. But if you're talking to the hiring manager who's going to have like the final say if you get the job or not, you want to like double down on the projects and the impact that you've had in your pitch. Things you don't want to do, and it's unfortunately things that I've seen often, is you undersell yourself. You say like it was a little project, or I was just a junior, or I was just a mid-level person and you're going for a senior role. You want to just position yourself in power as if you're doing that role, you're already there, all is good. Don't retell your resume. I've read it. Other people on the interview panel have read it. We don't want you to rehash all of it. We want to find something that's different. Help us connect the dots that aren't already there. And again, I said this before, keeping it brief and short. It helps if you are short and sweet because people, you keep their attention span a little bit longer and you can move on to the important parts. Okay. All right. So with this, well, there's my dog. So with this, what I want to do is, how do I do this? I need to reshare my screen. So I think this is right. Yes, I did it. Okay, cool. Woo, the pain. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what we're going to do next. We are actually going to jump into breakout rooms as like the last thing we do for this session. I will make this a part 2 because this has gone longer than I expected, but I really want you all to be able to experience the breakout room and be able to use this worksheet to start to craft um, your own pitch, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop this into the chat with some details on what we're going to be doing in the breakout room, okay? But I'm also going to like walk through this. What we're going to do is we're going to break up into smaller groups. And once you get into your groups, you will be able to, one person will make a copy of this sheet, and you will start to fill out some of the details for one person, right? We're just going to do this as a group to complete it for one person. It could be a made up person, it could be an actual person in the room. That's up for you guys or you all to decide. But to make a copy of this, I just want to go through this here. It's outlined in the top of the file here. But if you want to, you're just going to go here. You're going to click on make a copy, and it's going to create a copy that you can add to your own drive, and you'll be able to edit. Currently, this is just something that you could view, but once you make a copy, you can edit, right? So what we want to do is we want to make a copy of this. And again, one person will be the person who will share their screen or just like take notes inside of these boxes to answer these questions. And as you can see, like this worksheet is broken down into the different parts of a pitch that we talked about. And these boxes just help you gather the information that you need to start to create that perfect pitch. So we'll go with the short introductions, and you have some examples here where you can literally just like change what's in the brackets to fit you, which I think is really cool. You'll do that the same thing for your professional background, key skills and strengths, goals and motivation, and then your wrap up and what that would look like. So we took that slide that we had that said what goes into a pitch, and we broke it down so you can create a template. And by the end of this, what will happen is you will have a pitch that will look something like this. Now, this looks like a lot of words, but I promise you, when you read this out, it takes about like a minute and a half to 2 minutes to say. And this is created from going through and creating this worksheet. So we're not going to get to this point of it, but we do want to go through the practice of how do you fill out this worksheet together. Okay? Before I drop us into different groups, does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right, so there's 13 of us. I'm going to go ahead and get the rooms together. So to make this easy, let's do three breakout rooms, and that should be good. All right, so you should, okay, open all rooms. Okay, you can go ahead and jump into the rooms now. All right, okay. That worked. All right. And so for those of you who are watching, will the link for the pitch document be posted outside of Zoom? Yes. Yes, it will. I don't know how. You're on Twitter. I will tweet out the link for the pitch deck on Twitter right now, so that could be available, and then you'll be able to click the link. I think that'll be the easiest way to do this. And I'm gonna do that. And while everyone is hanging out in the rooms, I will be right back. that part of the interview process is one that is always really flexible and kind of squishy because there's no real way to do it. And definitely want to give people space to, um, oops, I'm on the wrong screen, sorry. To give people space to practice this a little bit more and give, um, sorry, okay, there we go. I want to give people space to practice. One, finish completing this form, and two, practices so that we can actually move from doing this to and prepping for it to actually being able to take what we've learned from this document to do mock interviews. But I know it's late for one, and we have completely run out of time. So I wanted to do one last thing before we officially close out. And what I will do is I'm going to, uh, oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a part two for this room for this event. And what I'll do is for the next part of it, we will start to talk about the other half of the interview process, which is how do you talk about your projects, which is a big thing that I think people um, need support around and could just use some more practice. And then we will also talk about being a team player. What I have done is, and these are really good. And once we get through these last two sections, what we'll be able to do is we'll have more space for mock interviews and things like that. So that way we can practice what it's like to answer these questions and give feedback and all of that good stuff. Um, as far as like next steps, we do have planned for us a Twitter office hour. So if you do complete your form, you can go ahead and go there and you can practice your pitch and get more feedback. That is, I'm sorry I didn't put the date and time, but that is actually happening Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're looking for that support, we'll definitely send that. We will also be sending out an email with a lot of these, all of the information that we went over today. We will be sending out details around the template to create your pitch, as well as the slides and some additional resources that we think will be helpful for you, and more details about the Tech by Choice community. Again, just wanted to say thank you for hanging out with us and going through and getting some talking about the interview process as a whole. With that, we are officially done for tonight. I did want to make space for any Q&A that anyone may want to, any questions that anyone may have. Want to make sure I can answer those. But if you do not want to stick around for Q&A, the only thing I ask is if you can please just give us feedback so that way we can constantly improve our events to make sure that we are making things better for all of you. That's my last ask. Yeah. Sorry, my screen has 1,000 things open and I'm trying to find the chat. Okay, cool. But yeah, with that said, since now we're in the Q&A section, I'm going to go ahead and stop our live streaming so that way we can be a little bit more open. And if anyone has any questions, you can drop your questions in the chat, or you can go ahead and raise your hand and I will be able to answer them. But for everyone who has been watching us through the live stream, thank you so much for hanging out with us. All the great comments and questions, we really did enjoy it, and we can't wait to continue to support the community. And we will see you next time. Hopefully, you'll join us on Friday for the Twitter chat.